Michael back for another episode of A Shot at Business Central and a Beer, the one and only podcast made specifically for Business Central enthusiasts who want the latest news and app and feature reviews while learning a little bit about beer reviews in the process. We're starting off on a good note today by laughing, so that's good. On today's podcast, we're actually going to even take a little step back, speaking of beer, and we're going to look at and talk about all the beers that we've drinking over the history of the podcast. We're going to review them, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, Michael, how you doing? Yeah, we're going to see how stupid our ratings were over the years and how we rated different things compared to other things.
Yeah. And shockingly, I think we've rated pretty close.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Also, we've got a special guest today, and she happens to also be the person who brought the beer in. Hello, Miss DeAndra Wolf. How are you?
I'm
what
good.
Did you bring in today for us?
I brought in Into the Sun from Moore Brewing in Huntley.
Oh, nice.
A local brew straight from the brewery.
Yep.
Huh? And I have to admit, I've already started drinking.
As have I.
And I like it. It is a dry hopped wheat ale with blood orange.
What is blood orange? It's just another way for saying orange flavoring?
I think it's a type of orange, right?
Yeah, I think it's
like
like
a
bigger.
small little.
Oh, it's an actual orange?
No,
strong
our
orange.
blood orange is
Are they
bigger
bigger?
ones.
Sure.
I think so.
I'll take your
And they're
word for
very
it.
deep red in the inside.
Right. Yeah. Like blood.
Is that a grapefruit?
Kind of sounds like a grapefruit. Yeah, maybe it's like a hybrid kind of between. Imagine a grapefruit and an orange that had a baby.
Compared? Yeah. Genetically modified.
There you go. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so I've never had this beer before. I like it too so far as well, but I guess we're going to be giving our ratings.
I like it. It's like it has like a normal wheat beer, but then the blood orange gives it like a little sweetness at the end, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of a nice aftertaste.
Mhm.
You don't get that bitter aftertaste that you
Yes.
get with some IPAs that use mosaic hops
Absolutely.
over the top at the end.
Yeah.
Um,
It actually reminds me a little bit of a more hoppy Blue Moon, right? So when I drink Blue Moon, I put the orange in it. So
Yeah.
this is kind of like Blue Moon with the orange, but still has a little bit more hoppy flavor.
Blue Moon Turbo,
Yeah, not
so to
bad.
speak. Yeah, unfortunately, I went out there, not very many ratings on this. It's a local brew. I think it's probably relatively new, maybe not, but yeah, there weren't many ratings out there, so we can't really go look at some of the silliness that goes on online to describe the beer. But I thought we could talk a little bit about, because it points out, I mean, they're very clear that this is a dry hopped wheat ale. And you're like, oh, dry hopped. Oh, that must be fancy, right?
Marketing tactic.
It's,
That's what I think.
It's Stump Michael time.
Oh, here we go.
Are
Oh,
most
for
beers, or most hops, wet hopped or dry hopped?
Okay, so if they're pointing out that this is dry hopped, I'm going to say most are wet hopped.
False. You're
False?
wrong. Yeah.
Really? So they're pointing out that
Most hops are dried.
Really?
So,
What's the
however,
difference?
the dry hopped, when it talks about the beer, it's a little kind of a trick question. Sorry.
All right.
When it says dry hopped wheat ale, what that typically refers to is when they put the hops in during the brewing process.
Okay, so they're putting it in
Late.
Okay.
So late in the process. So like during towards the very end, whereas wet hopped, they put them in while the initial boil is going on.
Yeah.
And
It's got to be a noticeable flavor.
what's
Difference,
odd
right?
is you would assume that the wet hopped, if they're adding them earlier in the boil process, that would add more flavor.
Yeah. 'Cause
It's actually the
extracting it.
opposite.
Really?
So yeah, and putting the
Boiling
hops
it
in
out?
during the boil, it's a more nuanced flavor, less bold. But when you dry hop it, meaning putting the hops in at the end,
You get more out
you
of it.
end up with more hoppy flavor. So
So
I guess
I'm
that's why they want to point out that it's dry hop, because it's supposed to be
Yeah.
more hoppiness.
I like it.
Do you know of any wet hot beers off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head.
No,
No, you
stump
could
Ken
have stumped
question.
Ken. No? Yeah, you should
Trying to compare it to something.
used that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I like it though. It's got a fruity flavor. It's not bad. It's a good summer beer, I'd say.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
Let's go through and let's see if we can find some wet hopped beers.
Oh, Ken's looking up wet hop
Yeah,
beers.
these are ones that you wouldn't know. Mother's Harvest, Harvest Ale, Hop Knife. Yeah, I don't know if there's much of a difference. But all these point out that they're wet hopped. So
I wonder what a big wet hop
we'll
beer
have to
is.
try a wet hop next time. But
Yeah, maybe. I've never heard of
There's
it.
a Three Floyds wet hop. I'll
Is
pick
there?
one up for us.
Zombie does?
Brewdew.
Brewdew?
Mm-hmm.
oh, Three Floyds Brewder. Yeah, I just saw that. Yeah.
You're a Three Floyds fan, never had it?
Oh, well, I don't know. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale
Oh.
pops up as a under the wet hopping page. So, well, we'll figure it out. So yeah, towards the end of the episode, we're gonna go through and we'll give this beer a rating,
Yep.
and then we're gonna go back. You've compiled our list of all of our ratings
Mm-hmm.
of all episodes,
Yep. The
and
average rating of the beer.
then we're gonna
What
find
your
out,
average
yeah, who's got the higher average rating, what was the highest rated, the lowest rated. Look for anomalies, do some data mining, and see what we can
pull up
see what we
Power
can
BI
discover there.
All right. All right. So next up, then we're going to be talking about the shot at Business Central. So we're going to be bringing some good news for everybody to listen to. Let's get excited.
Hey everybody, welcome back to a shot of Business Central and a beer, and this is the shot segment. So what's new with Business Central? First main thing here, we have another monthly update, just deployed to Business Central online environments at the very end of September, which is version 18.5. So included in 18.5, there's 10 platform hotfixes, 55 application hotfixes, and then 10 localization hotfixes across 10 countries. There's 2 for the US included in there. And there's also one new feature that they deployed as part of 18.5, which is extension validation on upgrade. So what this does is this is a validation service that will validate apps, different aspects about them on each tenant, including whether dependencies have been provided, compiling of the code, schema changes that might be broken, or duplicate IDs. And it says initially validation will be triggered on upgrade and only proceed if passing validation. So I think what they're trying to do is be more proactive in capturing potential issues that might prevent a new update from being deployed successfully.
Yeah, it's funny because when I saw this, what it was with the release for the feature change, the extension validation on upgrade, I immediately thought that this had been released in a previous version for some reason. I don't know if they had talked about it maybe before,
Yeah.
but I thought that it was already there. Maybe when they redid the admin center, and gave the update to that.
I agree with you. I thought the same thing when I saw it. I'm like, I thought this was already out there, but
yeah. So maybe they made some tweaks to it. Who knows?
Yeah, that could be. That could definitely be.
Yeah, if it works, it should be a great feature.
Yep. What do you have? Do you have any updates for us?
I do. So Ken actually passed along an email, I want to say a week or two ago, about this new commerce experience from Microsoft. And when I opened up the email, he's like, oh, there's some changes or whatever, but not too much. Maybe this one, will apply to us. And I opened up the document, and the document was 111 pages long.
Now, this is mostly for Business Central partners.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, this is for the CSP, really, is what it is.
Yeah,
They're
so
going to update the CSP. So
listen, Microsoft Cloud Solution Provider Program,
yeah,
CSP.
CSP.
Look at you with your acronyms.
Yeah. I actually call it Partner Center. So I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
But-
Anyway, sorry.
No
I'm
worries.
distracting you.
So according to Microsoft, partners will have the opportunity to build and deliver more managed services, expand your customer base, and help guide your customers through their transformational journey to the cloud. What it means is, I guess, greater sales agility and customer commitment, which, okay, no big deal.
Yeah.
Operational efficiency and cost savings, and you got more choices for customers. Which I'm interested to see is how customers are going to have more choices available to them in the CSP because they really don't transact in the CSP that I know of, right?
No, it's partners, right? That's what I'm
Right.
saying. It's more for partners and how partners can manage their Dynamics 365 and Office 365 environments.
Mhm.
I did see a couple changes though, that actually were where they're trying to make things simpler. I did scan through the 120 page document or whatever it was, and there was one where it says they're actually going to limit a couple things. Like one was they're going to limit, like if you cancel a subscription X days after the start of the period,
Yes.
you don't get like a full credit for that number of days.
Right.
Right.
There's going to be an enforced cancellation policy.
Enforced. There you go. That's nice.
Yeah. What's interesting too, though, is that they are going to do a premium price monthly term subscription that allows cancellations or seat count reduction as needed. But also, where's it at? They're offering, I think I read somewhere that they're offering yearly subscriptions. Did you see that?
Yes. Yeah. So some additional options in terms of pricing. Yeah. Annual subscriptions, and some other stuff that you can do. And I think they're adding a couple things to it too, and how you can, like what you can offer through there and how it's offered. But
yeah,
there's tons of details.
Right, and it's going to be for pretty much everything, right? Dynamics 365 right now, and I read in the future Microsoft 365 will be incorporated into it as well.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and ultimately, if you are a Business Central partner, I know if a lot of people have like on-premise licensing and revenue and everything. I also believe there's part of that is the plan is to migrate all of that into CSP, so that you kind of have all of that recurring and license revenue. You can transact software licensing also through CSP.
Yep.
I believe as well.
And also, they're doing a promotion, which I don't know how it's going to work, but it says new commerce transactions of seat-based offers will be available in October 2021 to help you transition customers to the new commerce experience. 2 introductory promotions will be available between October 1st and March 31st for direct bill and indirect providers transacting in the CSP. So I went to the promotions page in the CSP, and it says promotions are available, ! But they're not showing.
There you go. Stay tuned.
So stay tuned, yeah. So we'll see what happens, but
to me, all of this is like, it's just another day in the life, right? Like new changes, improvements, things that we have to adjust to and adapt to, and we'll figure it out.
somewhere along the line, though, Microsoft has to stop changing so much stuff,
No,
right? No,
No,
like
the
we're getting rid
pace-
of customer source. It's going into partner center, and this page is gone, that page is gone. It's
in my years, the change only accelerates. The pace
it
of
does,
change only
Always
accelerates.
evolving.
yeah. I mean, look at the CSP or partner center, whatever you want to call it now. In the last 2 years, it's crazy what's on there.
Yeah.
I would imagine that pretty soon you'll be buying on-premise licenses through it,
I think you will be. I think you're right.
and then they'll get rid of Microsoft Partner Source Business Center.
One day.
One day, yeah, we'll see. All right, Ken, I know you want to talk a little bit about directions coming, or not directions, NavLog Summit.
Yeah, just a little promo here. Just next couple weeks, we've got the Business Central User Group Summit, Dynamic Communities, hosting it in Houston, October 12th through the 15th. So I'm heading down there, doing a couple sessions, meeting with a few app developers while I'm down there. So hopefully I'll learn some stuff, talk to some people. Maybe we'll set up some interesting guests for some future podcasts.
And DeAndra, he's going to be building a virtual brewing company. Maybe not virtual, but you're going to be trying to.
Yeah, the Dynamic Brewing Company.
Yeah.
We're going to be using the Business Central manufacturing, assembly, and jobs to do everything we need to do to get that brewery up and running.
Sounds interesting.
Should be a fun session. Looking forward to it. I just don't know if I can actually drink beer during the session while I'm leading it, but we're going to find out if that's allowed or not.
Walk in with your own keg and put it in the corner. Every
Beer-
correct
beer
answer,
for-
a good
beer
question.
for everyone.
Everybody
Hey,
has a good question.
It's like, what do they say? I'd rather beg forgiveness than ask for permission.
Yeah,
Is
there you
that-
go. It's exactly true. Yep.
So
what's the worst could happen?
Yeah. No, but it should be good. I think they're doing some for people that maybe aren't comfortable with going to an in-person event or they can't go for some reason. They are adding a little bit more virtual stuff and a virtual option so you can attend the conference. But they're very adamant that it is an in-person event. It's not a virtual event. It is an in-person event, and that is the plan. But I believe they are making some accommodations for people who want to attend virtually.
Yeah, and I heard that they have an extra, let's call it expo hall, and a building next to the building that it's in if they have to space people out more, depending on how many people show up or whatnot.
Yeah, I guess.
So, yeah. We'll see. So, all right, what are we talking about next, Ken?
That's it for the news. I think next we're gonna hit a little recap of our earlier this month interview that we did with Mike Morton, the general manager of Microsoft Dynamics Business Central.
All right, so Ken and I are going to talk a little bit about our Mike Morton interview that we did. Mike Morton is the general manager of Business Central at Microsoft. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure your beer's full, hit pause on the podcast, go to our YouTube page, go to our website, and listen to the Mike Morton interview. It's very beneficial. Mike offered a lot of insights. He gave some stories, answered a bunch of our questions, so you'll definitely like it. Then come back and listen to this part of the podcast.
Nice spoiler alert.
I don't know if they consider it a spoiler alert, but yeah. So first and foremost, we'd like to say thanks to Mike Morton for actually agreeing to be on the podcast and dropping his knowledge about Business Central and the vision and what's happening with it and whatnot. Ken, did you find anything interesting that maybe you didn't know about? Or yeah,
I kind of felt like in general, it was our Super Bowl.
Yeah, for us it is, yeah.
Like, Mike Morton, very influential person in terms of Business Central, the future direction of the product, how the development team goes about figuring out what new features to include, right? I mean, he's
the man. He's got all the answers to every question.
Absolutely. So it was pretty exciting. I think in general, he confirmed a lot of the stuff that, we talk about, and he's very gracious, spending his time with us and answering our questions. I think, a couple things that stuck out to me was
I believe bell bottoms are going to come back into style before on premise.
Right. They're already on their way.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think we knew that, right? There's a couple things that stuck out to me. One is, he used the word delightful in describing, Business Central Online, and kind of just describing like the simplicity of it and some of the features and functionality. Mm-hmm. So that stuck out to me. And then one of the things that he said, which I kind of, really agree with, is he said, I sort of reject the notion that sophisticated capabilities can exist in a simplified user experience.
Yep.
Right. And I call it,
that's because
making it elegant. Right. Elegant software is really complicated, but it seems simple to a user. That's what makes software elegant.
Yeah. I think it would be a really good poll to put up to see if what other Business Central users and partners think about the actual simplification of Business Central and whether it's too much, too quickly, or if they like it or whether or not they don't. But he's right though. Just because it's easy to use doesn't mean that it's feature lacking.
Right.
Actually, which it's not.
Yeah. Actually, the simpler something. Imagine like if you're using Power BI with Business Central. And you can go, one of the features in Power BI, you can go ask it questions, like type in a question. Which item had the greatest sales last year? Right? You just type that question in and it returns the result. That is simple, yet technologically really powerful.
Yeah.
Right? A feature.
It's the power of artificial intelligence, which I also think that he alluded to a lot was that, regardless whether people want it or not, the integration of artificial intelligence is coming. So you like robots?
I just watched iRobot the other day, so
Oh my God.
that's
iRobot
interesting.
is the future. You're absolutely right. But yeah, so I think that's good. I also liked when he was talking about they want to make all the business apps something that people want to, when they come to work, they want to be excited to use these apps. So I don't know if that means they're going to try to add more, I don't know, collaboration with sort of games or point systems. Maybe I don't know how do you make it more exciting for people to want to use.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
Cool.
mean, for people who do it, we like the new features or whatnot, and I
Right.
guess users do too if it affects them. But
Yeah, I guess we'll have to stay tuned. He made a reference in one of the, we were talking about some like what, I think you asked him like what new, give us some hints what new features are coming out.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to share too much, which I knew that was going to happen. But he said so there was something coming out that was going to make basic navigation and viewing of data easier.
Yeah.
And some things that, you know, once it's there, people are going to wonder why you didn't have it forever.
Yeah. So that means it's
That's-
right in front of our
that's
face and we're not
exciting.
realizing it.
Right. Yeah. Like what are they working on? Right. Like,
Yeah.
like
What
how
is
is
it?
this not always there?
Exactly.
Right. What did we do before this existed? You know?
Which kind of goes back to simplification, right? They're making something a lot simpler that we should already know about, but we don't.
Yeah.
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 Sorry. So yeah, Mike talked about a lot of good stuff. So I also like that he knows the faults, let's say, with AppSource. You know, obviously there's a lot of good things about AppSource, but there's some bad things.
Yep.
And he said that he would anticipate it being changed in the future. But they've been, I think he even said that we've been saying that it's coming in a year, and it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So-
Right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
We'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, and I think, you know, so overall, it was really great. You know, and you know, maybe if I could have a wish, it would be that maybe we have Mike on once a year. You know, and maybe we'll follow up with him next year, and hopefully he'll come back and join us, and we'll be able to talk about what's going to be new next year.
Maybe right before the release wave 2, we could talk about all the different things.
But yeah, we touch on a lot of stuff. You know, the future versions, products, app source, how they decide what new features get put into place, the frequency of updates.
Yeah, I like the story he told about. He was just about to get introduced as the general manager of Business Central, and he just downloaded the app on his phone the day before.
Oh yeah.
And he was wondering, I hope they don't know that I'm doing this the day before. And Ken jumped in, and he's like, you know they do know.
They're tracking everything.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that was fun. And although we didn't get a favorite beer out of him, we did get a new sidecar that we weren't really, a new cocktail that he enjoys that we weren't familiar with, which I just ruined. It's just the sidecar.
Cognac drink, right?
Cognac, triple sec, and lemon juice, or a Cointreau, like an orange liqueur.
Yeah. And if you happen to watch the podcast on YouTube, it'll tell you what's exactly in the sidecar drink and how to make it. So
I wouldn't be surprised if in a future episode you and I are drinking sidecars, buddy.
Yeah, I'll try it out.
Yeah.
Why not? Something different. I'll give it a shot. But let's see what else is anything to talk about here. Not too much. I mean,
Simplification. Yeah.
I would say that's the theme of the future, right? Simplification and maybe artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Implement it, deploy it faster and easier, implement it faster and easier, and run it and maintain it, right? Faster and easier. That's kind of the theme.
Yeah.
And don't even think about the deployment of it, right? The architecture, the back end, the service, the performance.
Mhm.
Those are things that people shouldn't even have to think about.
Yeah, I've always looked at Business Central, which is kind of weird. It's sort of like your phone, right? Business Central is your phone, and then you can customize your phone how you want through all the different apps or whatnot. And it seems like they're actually, they're progressing so fast, so quickly over the last couple of years that it's
great. I mean, I honestly say, like, sometimes you feel like you're blowing smoke, but I'm not. Like, I feel like we are in the most exciting time for Business Central. The future, right, is as bright as it's been. When we look back over the last 15, 20 years, Microsoft purchased Navision in 2002 and then continued to add and develop it. And I think it's as exciting now as it's ever been. So,
Are you a fan of the cloud, DeAndra?
I am.
The future is cloud. No
That's
doubt
right.
about it. All right. Well, once again, if you have not listened to the podcast, go on our website or YouTube or iHeartRadio or Spotify, whatever it may be. We're out on all the platforms, and listen to the podcast with us and Mike Morton. And then I believe coming up next,
DeAndra Wolf and the new
Yeah.
sales pricing experience in Business Central.
Yep, it's gonna be fun.
Hey everybody. All right, it's time for our feature segment here. And again, we're joined by special guest DeAndra Wolf. And today we're going to be talking about the new sales pricing experience. Well, it's called pricing experience, let's just call it. That was introduced into Business Central with version 2020 Wave 2. So October 2020, this was released. And so it's a new pricing experience for setting up and managing prices. So welcome, DeAndra. Thank you for joining us. I invited her to help explain what is the new pricing experience, what are some of the new features, potential benefits of using it, and how to get it set up and deployed. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And so let's just start off really high level. So for people, right, a lot of people, aren't familiar with when you say, oh, new pricing experience, what is it? So what is it for? What is it? Or what does it add, I guess?
Honestly, I think that better visibility across the board.
Mm-hmm.
Better way to maintain your price list, especially if you have structured pricing.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned price lists.
Mm-hmm.
So I know currently there really is no concept of price list. So like, how would you go about what would be an example of what would you set up a price list for? Like, what would be an example?
Let's say you're in distribution and you have distributor pricing, based off of list price, 50% off list, 45% off list. You can create price lists based on those different price groups,
Okay.
Customer specific pricing, customer discount pricing, and, keep it all in one place where it can be maintained, ending dates, inactive, there's statuses in the headers now so that you can update the lines where it's not all manual anymore.
Yeah, one of the biggest tricks in and again, using Nav and Business Central for years is kind of understanding. You mentioned a lot of different things there, right? You mentioned discounts, you mentioned customer specific prices, you mentioned group pricing, like if you're a distributor. I think it's always been kind of difficult to understand the lay of the land, like what prices are applicable for this customer. So when you create a price list now, you're saying you can create a price list and you can say, this is for my distributor pricing, or this is my gold customers versus my silver level customers.
Correct.
Or you could create a price list that is customer specific. Like, these are the 20 items where this customer has like a unique price that I've kind of quoted them for these items.
Right. So you could make a customer specific price list. You also have the option to allow updating to the defaults of those price lists. So it can be customer for all customers, but make customer specific pricing within the lines to multiple customers.
Got it. Yeah. So I noticed, so one of the hard parts, so in terms of like efficiency, right? It's always been kind of difficult to, let's say you have a customer A and they've got like a list of like 50 items where you've got these prices for it. And then you get this new customer B. And they're kind of similar to A, and you want to kind of give them the same prices that customer A has. It was kind of a hassle to build that new price list. Is there a way to copy a price list then?
There's actually two very easy ways to do this now. You can start a new price list by copying the lines of a price list you already have, or you can also use the suggest lines, which you're able to pull over your entire item list, or set filters in the options tab for pulling over groups of items.
Okay.
By like using an item category or specific to a vendor.
All right. So yeah, that's a huge, because at the end of the day, when you think about a company that's up and running, they've got hundreds and hundreds of customers, maybe thousands of products that they sell. Managing those price lists has always been kind of difficult. You maybe have to build like a data port to export items and import them, or use like a configuration package to export your prices and then import new ones. And one of the tricks has always been that there's on every price record, you have a starting date and an ending date. And a lot of people don't know when the pricing is going to change, right? So you enter a starting date on your price records, and you don't fill in the ending date. But then you get a notice that, hey, November 1st, we're going to be updating these prices. The vendor's updated costs, so we're going to update our pricing. It's kind of a hassle. You had to like export all those records and then update the ending date and then import all the records on maybe thousands of price records.
Yeah.
Is there an easier way now to do that with a price list?
Because the price lists have headers, it's a price list header. You can enter the ending date and it will update all the lines within that list.
There you go. So updating one field can say, here's the ending date for this whole price list and the 1,000 prices that are items that are on there. So that's huge, I think.
So why was there no end date before though? Is it just because you weren't sure when the price was going to change?
Right. Yeah. Like, so if you create these new prices and you go, why? Yeah. You don't know when you're going to be updating them. So you don't want to put an end date on it. And then maybe that end date arrives, but prices haven't changed,
Okay.
and now you've got no valid prices in the system. So it's common that you leave that ending date blank because you just don't know when prices might change, right? Yeah, so in that ending date was always critical. Like that was the starting date and the ending date were really the only ways that you could say that a price was active, right, or currently valid. And I think there's a new status field now.
Yeah, the price lists can be, well, they start default in draft, and then you actually have to change the status to activate. And then you can also make them, active, and then you can make them inactive as well.
So for some reason, you've got all this price list out there, and for some reason someone says, yeah, hey, we're discontinuing this whole program, let's say. Maybe it was a promo or just some special price list someone created. You could just flip one flag to set it to inactive, and all those prices become like disregarded.
Yeah, they're still visible to you, but the price list will be inactive, so it's no longer part of the price calculation for best price or lowest price.
So let's get back to that. Yeah, so that's a good point. So we're talking about all these things that have changed, but what's the same? Is there's still sales prices, discounts, and that best price logic?
Yep. So that's all.
So all of that's still the same. So this is just kind of a new structure, a better structure, like you said, with a header and then lines that have all the items listed on it. So I think, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds just easier to use and to understand.
Absolutely. I mean, just visually seeing your prices and knowing where the price is coming from is, the key point that I've noticed.
So would you anticipate all organizations using this in the future?
Eventually, they will all be using it. It'll become a standard. But right now, when you have the option, I think it just is a matter if it meets your business model as far as your pricing structure.
Yeah. Why change something if it's not broken?
Well, price list, if you have a very structured, industry pricing, this will work great for you. But if you have just quoted prices all across the board that never really match up, then price list isn't really for you. You still have the option to do that though with the price lists and still be able to maintain it and see it visually. It would be, it'll be a great thing all around, I think.
Gotcha.
It's just easier.
So like right now, if I go into Business Central, I automatically see this, like price list is enabled or what?
No, it's under the new feature management. You have to actually enable it. But once you do, you cannot revert back to the old way.
No.
So I would always make sure you either create a copy or do it in a sandbox, not start off in production.
Trying to think, like, are there really any reasons, like to your point, Michael, like why would someone not
Right. If you enable
want to
is
use
it going to kill your
price
business?
lists?
No, I mean, if
It is different though, right? Like
Yeah.
you create and maintain your price lists differently.
right.
So I think maybe for someone who just doesn't want change. Yeah, so what I think so I was kind of playing around a little bit with it and it looked like, so like if I go, let's say I have a customer and they're in my gold price group, but then I've also set up like 5 items with like unique custom pricing for them.
Mhm.
What it looks like I can do is I can go to the customer card and I can still hit sales prices and it'll still show me those 5 items that I have the unique prices. But I can also go to price lists. And the system automatically shows me a list of these are the price lists that are applicable right now for this customer,
Correct.
which is nice.
So
Right?
it only shows ones that are applicable. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before, like if you were to say to me without this new feature, if you were to say, hey, what prices are currently applicable for Canon Group, this customer in the demo, Cronus database, there's really no way to know that, to see it. Like you'd have to go, okay, well, they're in this price group and they're in, these are the custom prices that are set up. But you actually could have like multiple price groups just from a management standpoint. Like for example, maybe you're a company like the Cronus company. They sell furniture, bicycles, and electronics, right? So you may actually have 3 separate price lists, one for each of those product lines. And right, so now you could have 3 price lists plus maybe they're a gold customer for bicycles. So they get these extra lower prices because they buy a lot of bicycle stuff, but they don't buy a lot of electronic stuff, right? So they don't get any special pricing in that. I think the price list, it looks like it gives you a nice clean like list that goes, hey, this customer currently is eligible for these price lists here.
So can you select, do either of you know if you can select price lists that are not applicable? I can't say the word, applicable to whatever it is you're doing?
They wouldn't even show up on their list if it wasn't for all customers, customer specific, or they belong to that price group.
You can't make a mistake. Nice.
Right. Yeah, it still provides the like the lowest or best price is what gets automatically applied. And I noticed a field, I don't know if you know, DeAndra, if you know, like on the, I thought this was interesting. If you go into sales and receivables setup, there's a few new fields on there. And one of them is called price calculation method. But there's only one option. It's called lowest price. So any insights in why they added that new field there?
There you can have a partner or an ISV do alternative pricing logic that can be implemented. I think that came out previously in a different wave, and this price list structure was built off of that.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so it's kind of a more structured way, like in the past, I know we had done one example is we had a customer that said, all right, I've got this price list for this customer, but I've got these 20 custom prices that I quoted to them. And maybe on like 10 or 15, let's say 15 of the items, they get a lower price, right? A better price because they're going to be buying a lot of these. But then on 5 of the items, I'm actually going to charge them more because they're not going to buy them as often. And I want to make up some margin by charging them a little bit extra when they purchase those products. In the standard Business Central lowest price model, you needed an enhancement or an app, right? An extension to do that. So it seems like now there's this price calculation method. You could actually create a new price calculation method, right? And then add your extension to just use that. So it's a more formal way of identifying that you're using a different set of pricing logic, like or modified pricing engine, if you will,
Right.
To say, yeah, if there's a customer specific price, even if it's more, let's use that. But before, without the price lists or without this new field, the only way anyone would ever know that is by knowing that there was an enhancement that was done that modified the standard logic.
Otherwise, you have no
It
idea.
was buried. Otherwise, you would have no idea, no visibility that the standard logic wasn't being used.
So this gives you more visibility, is what you're saying.
Right. I think across the board, it gives you way better visibility to your prices from what you've said. Like for a typical user to go in and understand what are the price lists that are active for this customer right now.
Right.
And then way easier management and maintenance of those as prices change each year.
Yeah. Updating prices, adding in new parts, price increases. It's all definitely easier than having to go to like a rapid start and uploading it all that way.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's say, so if you're a customer and you don't have this feature enabled, can you go in and just enable a feature and it's all going to work perfectly? Or do you know if there's some setup involved or?
We would just be creating your price lists.
That's
So
it.
they could enable it, they'd have their default, and then they would just need to start creating their price lists. Usually making sure you know ahead of time, you know, your pricing structure, so you know exactly what you're doing, and then creating them from there. But the setup of creating those price lists is definitely much quicker than it would be in the current.
Average user know how to do it then? Or would they need like a 5-minute video or something like that?
It's
It's going to be a little bit different.
we
I
can
would
provide
assume.
training on that, of course,
Yeah,
but it
well, yeah,
is
I mean-
pretty easy once you just start getting in there playing with it. I mean, it's all very simple. It's not overcomplicated. So suggest, you know, lines, copy lines. The header information works just as, you know, header information in every other aspect of Business Central.
I get from everything we've just talked about and what I looked at real briefly just before today, and having trained users on the old way of setting up pricing and updating prices, I can tell you 100% certainty that this new price list feature is easier and more intuitive to learn how to do. Yeah, I'm sure there's, just like anything else, there's training.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna probably need a little bit of guidance, maybe a little 15-minute training video on how it works. But compared to like deer in headlights looks that I would get when I go, okay, open up the sales price worksheet and run suggest item prices and now implements prices and like, what?
Why so many steps?
So I think it looks, to me, it looks way better.
After I've been using it now for a couple of weeks, I would definitely prefer to use this over the old way, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, DeAndra. We appreciate you joining us. More importantly, we appreciate you bringing the beer.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
So next up, we've got we're gonna change directions a little bit. We're going to talk about our past beers.
Ooh,
So
I've been waiting for this all day.
And we're back for a special beer segment since, we like beer and it seems to be a fan favorite. We had a lot of comments on the beer. We have a little chart here where we keep everything kind of organized, what beers we've drank and what the ratings have been for each beer and the overall rating and whatnot. So it turns out I'm looking at it right now, and I updated this as of today, so my numbers might be just a little bit different than yours. The average beer rating that I have given beers is 79.41.
Mhm.
Ken's is 80.80.
Less than 1 point difference.
Yes, less than
overall.
1 point difference. Which is interesting. I'm assuming though, because I've rated a couple beers pretty bad, and most of my other ones are probably a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Which kind of balances it out.
Specifically, the Brooklyn Special Effects non-alcoholic beer, which
God.
you gave a 19. If you remove that one, you have a higher ranking than I do. Yeah.
I gave it a 19.
It's that much of a difference.
I did give it a 19.
That if you remove that one rating, your average is higher than mine.
Yeah.
But either way, we are almost identical.
Yeah,
in terms of our overall average rating.
Which is kind of funny when you think about it.
And I did some comparisons, and our of all of our guests, you've also captured the different beers that our guests have brought and rated, and our average guest rating was 83.5.
Really?
So, which makes sense to me that's higher because they brought that beer.
Yeah, I would think it'd actually be a little bit
higher.
higher
It should be 90,
than that. Yeah,
right?
They're trying to make an impression, bring a good beer.
Yeah, yeah. And now I also have a couple other interesting things I noted. But now I should point out, you've been keeping this list, but up until this month, I've never seen it.
Yeah, he was not.
So when we every month give our rating on that month on that beer we're drinking, I have no idea really like what I've rated other beers. So now I kind of feel like I'm cheating a little bit because I can now refer to this and I can sort mine and see like, well, what did I give this beer? And well, this one's better than that. So
but is that cheating or is that actually making it more accurate?
Probably more accurate.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
I
I
would
think.
say more accurate for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think what we'll do too is I'm gonna actually put a link to the Power BI chart so everybody else can see all the beers we've drank and our ratings for each one.
Yep.
But
so we have I rated. The funny thing is we've each rated different beers.
yeah, there's some that you drank that I didn't drink.
Right. Where we had like a variety pack or different options and you right or a couple
Lockdown during the pandemic.
Yeah, lockdown beers. So we don't have all of them where we both rated them. So of the ones though that we both rated, there was 24 of those. 10 of them you rated higher.
Really?
And 14 I rated higher. So still a pretty balanced.
It's pretty close.
Pretty balanced.
I would imagine the ones that I rated higher are probably more toward different tasting beers, where yours might be more towards traditional beers.
I can tell you which ones were yours. The Dynamo Copper Lager, Fat Tire,
Flat Tire,
1050 Barrel Aged Beer, Angry Orchard Cider, Fuel Cafe Coffee Flavored Stout.
Yeah, that was good.
Kentucky Vanilla Barrel Cream Ale.
Not bad.
Sam Smith's Organic Chocolate Stout.
See?
Groove Grove, which was like a banana beer. Budweiser and Trader Joe's Provincial Golden Ale. So yeah, a lot of the flavored.
Yeah,
a lot of the flavored.
I would imagine that too. I actually rated.
Tried the PBR coffee flavored one?
The PBR one?
Yeah.
No.
It's actually not bad.
Really?
And I would never think that I would want to drink one of those.
Really? See, I love coffee. So anytime you can infuse coffee with certain things. Except for tequila. You guys ever had tequila coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, wasn't that good?
No.
It was pretty popular for a couple years back.
That's like reminds me of like those. Didn't Budweiser make like a tequila beer?
Oh,
It was
I
like
don't know.
beer
Did
with
they?
like tequila mixed into it.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I know they were doing the margaritas with the beer.
Oh, is it
Yeah.
margarita and beer mixed
that-
together?
And they would just stick the beer bottle on the side, so it was like infused with it.
Oh, I've seen those with the Corona bottles.
Uh-huh.
That's
No,
pretty good.
they do it with Budweiser.
This
Miller
isn't a
Lite.
can, like, yeah, a can of Bud Light or Bud
I haven't seen
with,
that.
maybe it was margarita. mixed
I've seen
in there.
the margarita drinks, so that's what you're
Yeah.
talking about, right? Yeah.
Where they
Those are pretty
actually
good.
serve the whole
You get the
glass
whole
with
glass
the beer
with the beer.
hanging
I've
off
seen it
the
with it
side.
too, yeah.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so that, I mean, that really makes sense that I'm not a huge beer drinker, although my palate has definitely been expanded over the past couple of years. But, there's some though, like Corona, that I'm sure I rated higher than you, well, you didn't drink it anyway, so.
No, I didn't, right.
Yeah.
So a couple noteworthy ones. So the ones where we had the closest rankings, there were 3 where we were 1 point away. It was Carlsberg, Danish Pilsner. That was the highest, 93 and a 94. Oktoberfest from Sierra Nevada, we had 87 and 88.
It's pretty good, I remember the beer.
And then the Fuel Cafe, 84 and 83. So those were the closest. The widest discrepancy between our ratings.
Yeah.
You gave a 92 to the 1050 barrel aged beer. This was like the 14%
Yeah, strong.
strong, like stout beer.
Yeah.
It was like drinking motor oil.
This guy.
And I gave that a 49 because
Wow.
I was not about to crack open a
So it's
second
nice you
one.
to get to the second one, yeah.
Did you finish the first?
I did, yeah. Barely. So that was a 43 point
It's
difference.
Pretty big swing, yeah.
And then the other way, I gave a 65 to the Brooklyn Special Effects non-alcoholic beer,
Oh,
and
God.
you gave it a 19. So that was the biggest difference at 46.
Can that even be rated as a beer since it's non-alcoholic?
It said beer on the can.
So last podcast, though, I know you don't have these numbers. We did the Tommy Half Acre beer.
Mhm.
You rated it a 94, which is shockingly high for what I thought.
Yeah,
I gave it a 68. That's pretty big swing too.
that is.
You
Yeah.
drink 26 points. So
No, I like that. It was a nice, well-balanced, hazy IPA.
yeah, the initial sip was great. It's just the aftertaste.
Garbage.
I
Garbage.
do feel like seeing your list now will actually make your ratings more accurate. Because if you rated that one 94 and all of a sudden you're just like, this is really good. Like I have this way before I chose that other one.
Yeah, like I'm looking at it right now. I can tell you, this is going to be an 89.
What are you
Here's
comparing it to?
Not even in the 90s?
What are you comparing it to?
So, oh wait, I was looking at I was looking at your ratings. Hold on, I screwed that up.
It comes
Yeah,
like down
80
to 78.
Yeah, hold on, 90. I take that back. It's going to be a 91 because it's definitely better than a Fat Tire, but it is not as good as a Centennial IPA or Carlsberg Danish Pilsner. So that would be a 91 or 92, right in there.
So out of curiosity, if you had to choose a beer, any beer that you would love to drink, what would be the one?
Yeah, so historically now, my highest rated beer is a Three Floyds Zombie Dust. There is there are, however, I say historically, because that was one of the original, going back 10, 15 years, IPAs, like an American pale ale. That was one of the original ones that was so hoppy and had that kind of fruity, citrusy, the Citra hops.
Mhm.
Nowadays, there's like 100 options.
Mhm.
So Brickstone APA is like just as good. So like there's like a dozen
Right.
that I probably would rate all like a hazy, like a lot of these hazy IPAs, or actually technically it's an American pale ale is the category.
I'm not a big fan of IPAs. What is your highest rated?
I don't know.
Beer,
Probably
Yeah.
Corona.
your highest rated beer is Corona, tied with Dynamo Copper Lager and Zombie Dust.
Yeah, looking back on it, I probably would have rated Zombie Dust a little bit lower now. That was our first beer.
Yep.
Same with Fat Tire. That was early in the season too, early in the podcast. I'd probably go a little bit lower on that.
Yeah.
Just by looking at it. But Corona stays the same. I love my Corona.
Ironically, Michael's highest 2 ratings actually are non-beer options. It's a Jack and Coke
Yeah, there you go.
is his highest, and then
locked
Weller Special Reserve Bourbon that we had.
That was the Rob one, yeah.
So those are actually his 2 highest, are not even beer, which is hysterical.
What about this beer? What's everybody going to give a rating for this one?
I'm gonna go 91.
91.
I
Wait,
mean,
So if it's below 50, that means you can only drink the one. You're not cracking open a second one. Above 50 means you can drink more than one. I
Well,
would
I
imagine you're not gonna
brought
go
the
that low.
beer because I love it. So I'm gonna give it a 95.
Wow.
I don't know
Favorite
what
beer?
would be in that 5. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, right after that would be a Coors Light or a Magic Hat, number 9.
a Coors Light. I just told Ken I had one this past weekend.
Magic Hat's pretty good too.
I never heard of that.
It's from a brewery in Vermont, I believe.
So I gave Fat Tire 92. I gave the Carlsberg a 93, which I feel I probably would have dropped those by a point or two. Actually like this beer a lot, so I'm going to give this one a 93. It's a pretty good beer. I like it. Definitely
You
reminds me
are
of
welcome.
a hoppy Blue Moon.
Yeah, I like it. I was kind of nervous coming in because I think we said bring something interesting and exciting, and you just never know what you're gonna get, right? When
Well,
you
I'm a
say that
beer
to someone.
drinker, so,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna bring something I don't like.
He brought a non-alcoholic beer.
You did?
I did, yeah.
Why?
Just
You
got-
liked it?
Just you gotta try different things and see what sticks.
I mean, if it's a non-alcoholic beer, I wouldn't even call it a beer at that point, right?
Yeah, it was
Just a
pretty.
beverage.
It
I
was
gave it a 19.
It was pretty bad.
You gave it a 19.
No, what's funny though is, you guys are beating up on my non-alcoholic beer, but the reality is that I would rather drink a non-alcoholic beer, particularly the Brooklyn Special Effects variety that we had. I would rather drink that than a 1050 barrel-aged beer or
Really?
a Trader Joe's Provincial Golden Ale.
That was pretty
who
bad.
brought that? Who brought that beer?
We're not gonna
Yeah,
talk
yeah, we
about
don't
who brought
disclose.
what,
Yeah.
but the 1050
I brought the 1050.
The 1050 was, I mean, it's just strong,
Yeah.
like,
It was
Had
our
you-
first barrel aged beer.
Had you had it before you
No,
brought it?
no.
Oh, so it was a surprise for both of you.
Yeah.
So it's not like you brought your favorite beer and expecting
No,
somebody
but I mean, I
else.
knew the alcohol
Okay.
content was going to be higher. All barrel aged beers, it's stronger. You know what I mean?
the 14% ABV on the side
Yeah.
of the can also.
Yeah, you don't like stronger or
No.
higher alcohol content beers.
No.
See,
I'll
I would
drink-
definitely drink the 1050 before the.
If I want something stronger like that, I'll drink booze, like a vodka
Right.
drink or bourbon or whiskey or something.
Hence my 2 highest rated drinks.
Right. Yeah, don't waste my time with strong beer.
Yeah, gotta try it out there every now and then. It's funny because we've talked about in the past. I think that it's hard going into Binny's or a liquor store and picking out a beer that you haven't really tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they all seem the same now. So
That's why you gotta go on a brewery tour and start sampling, getting flights at all of them, so you know what you're buying when you get back.
yeah,
If they're sold, obviously, at Benny's.
yeah. I don't know. We'll see though. Maybe a future remote podcast.
Well, now I'm armed with
On the road.
all this good information. So going forward, hopefully I'll be able to provide a consistent, accurate rating.
Yeah. All right, that means it's time for us to wrap it up. We got the ratings. We talked about the new sales price experience. Business Central News. We reviewed what we thought about the Mike Morton interview. Once again, check it out if you haven't heard it. And I think that's about it. So,
Adios.
DeAndra, thanks for joining us. We truly appreciate it.
It's been fun.
Talk to everybody later.
Bye.
As we end today's podcast, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who listens, shares this podcast, and leaves us reviews. You've taken a good amount of your time out of your day, and we truly appreciate it. Thanks again, and don't be afraid to email us at marketing@solsyst.com with your tips for the podcast, or maybe you'd even like to be a guest during an episode.